Welcome back to some new r/PettyRevenge stories, where people share small victories over those who wronged them. I hope you had a great day. Thanks for all the likes and comments on the last video. And now let's start with the first story. It's called Scammer Number. I get a lot of phone calls, just like everyone else. But this one guy called me twice in a row, so I called him back, since it's my work phone. He tried to tell me that I had won the publishing clearinghouse. I decided to have a little fun. I told him I would split the 5 million with him, if he could just tell me my name. Which, by the way, I had already told him when he answered. He still got it wrong, and I couldn't help but laugh. We had a few choice words back and forth before he hung up on me. But I was just getting started. For the next hour, I called him back over 100 times. Every so often, he would answer, get frustrated, and then hang up again. At some point, he even started threatening me, which only made it more amusing. He eventually paused for now, but I saved his number. I'll be calling him every now and then, just to return the favor. The next story is called Dead Chicken. When my friend was about 16, their first job was working at the rotisserie counter in a big supermarket. Every Friday night, the same woman would come in, stand at the counter and inspect every single cooked chicken on display. Without fail, she would point to the one in the very furthest corner and loudly declare, "Dead chicken." This meant my friend had to practically crawl into the display, reaching over perfectly good chickens to get it. This went on for weeks. Eventually, my friend came up with a plan. They took the scrawniest, driest chicken they could find, overcooked it until it was tough as leather, and put it right in that prime corner spot. Sure enough, Chicken Lady came in, inspected every single one, and, as expected, pointed straight at it. Dead chicken. After that, she never did it again. And funnily enough, she also started saying please and thank you. The third story is called No Pen. I live in Portugal. Here, when something happens at a commercial space, you write it in the complaints book. Since my parents own a business, I know exactly how these things work. Recently, I had an uncomfortable encounter at a kiosk. The cashier lingered way too long while checking my card, looking at the numbers, the name, even flipping it over to check the CVV. It felt off, so I asked for the complaints book. He refuses, which legally he can't do. Since it was just the two of us, I waited for another customer to show up before asking again. This time he reluctantly hands it over. I opened the book and realized something's wrong. A previous complaint had been ripped out completely, all 3 copies of it. Legally, the 3rd copy must always remain in the book, even if the complaint is taken back. That's a huge violation. Now here's where it gets interesting. I need a pen to write my complaint. I ask for one. He refuses. I say, okay. Instead of writing, I start the complaint process online. I take pictures of the missing pages, including one with the business's official stamp to prove it's from this book. The moment he sees me taking pictures, he rushes around the counter and tries to take the book from me. I have every right to keep this book until I'm done. More customers walk in. He backs off. The great thing about online complaints is that they go straight to the authorities. Since I couldn't write in ink, I skipped that step entirely and submitted the complaint directly online. I mentioned the weird behavior with my card, the refusal of service, and as a final touch, I reported the missing complaint pages with photo evidence. This ensures that tampering with the book will be followed up on and fined accordingly. After an hour of carefully writing up my report, I hand the book back without a written complaint inside. He flips through it, chuckles and smugly says, "Did you give up because you didn't have a pen?" "No, because I didn't have a pen, I submitted it directly online." Then, for the final mic drop moment, I say, I also didn't feel comfortable writing in a book where complaints seem to magically disappear. The color drains from his face, because we both know what that means. Even if the rest of my complaint isn't taken seriously, tampering with the complaints book absolutely will be. Then I smiled and said, "I wish I had a pen," and walked away. The next story is called Not a Patient. I work at an urgent care that takes patients until closing time, which is 10 p.m. Last night, as I was locking the door, a man and his 3 kids suddenly yanked it open, just as my hand was on the lock. Since they were already inside, I sat back down to register them. But instead of coming to the desk, the man spots a friend in the lobby. And of course, instead of registering, he walks over to have a full conversation. I glance at the clock, 10:01 p.m, and he's not moving. So I shut off my computer. Then I shut off the lights. That gets his attention. He finally walks over and, in the most sarcastic tone possible, says, "Me and my 3 kids need to be seen." Unfortunately, we only take patients until 10 p.m, and that time has passed. He tries to argue that he was inside the building before 10 p.m, which is technically true, but he wasn't a patient, just someone chatting in the lobby. So I politely offer to walk them out so I can lock the door behind them. By 10:05 p.m, I was out the door, and happy as can be. The last story is called Screaming Customer. When I was a university student, I worked in a small supermarket for over a year. I was 19 at the time, and since UK minimum wages are age-based, I was making very little. We had a complicated machine for printing and cashing lottery tickets. Any corrections or refunds had to be signed off by the manager, who was never around when we needed him. Cashing one ticket alone took something like 15 steps. It was wild. So for the first few weeks I took my time to avoid mistakes. Well, on my second day, an older gentleman came in. Along with some groceries, he wanted a few lottery tickets. He didn't seem to appreciate my lack of speed and leaned in, just inches from my face, and shouted "yes" when I tried to confirm his numbers. At the time, it really shook me. I was young, small, and still learning the job. He looked so pleased with himself for intimidating a young worker. That day, for the first time ever, I cried in the employee bathroom. The job itself wasn't great, and I had a few more rough encounters over the next year. But I was broke and a fast learner, so I was always available for overtime, working 45 to 55 hours a week. That man was a regular customer, meaning he absolutely knew I was new that day, and I had to serve him often. Over time, I got the hang of things and took on a lot of responsibilities, training new employees, checking refrigerator logs, ordering stock, and even handling product markdowns. 25% off at 9 a.m, 50% off at 12 p.m, 75% off at 4 p.m. I learned a few things about this man. He was unpleasant to everyone, especially younger workers, seemed to be on a tight budget, and closely tracked food markdowns, especially meat-based items. And he would always show up right after they were marked down for the final time. Now, there's nothing wrong with being on a budget, but it's never a good idea to yell at people, especially those who handle your food. So I decided on a slow burn PettyRevenge. Since I was a broke student, I figured I could both save money and get back at him. Food discounts stacked with my employee discount. So, for 10 months, I hid his favorite soon to expire items behind the dairy section just before he arrived. Then, once he left in frustration, I bought them myself. I didn't even love sausages, but I ate a lot of toad in the hole out of pure spite. That man probably only managed to buy discounted sausages 5 times in 10 months. Over time he got more and more upset, thinking other shoppers had figured out his trick. I always nodded sympathetically. Sorry, we sold the last ones. Maybe try again later this week. Now I actually love toad in the hole. Thanks for watching the video to the end. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe. And if you have time, watch another one of my videos. Also, if you want to support me further, check out the channel membership or Patreon. And now, I hope you have a great day. See you soon. Bye bye.